It is my pleasure to introduce our three panelists who have extensive brand building and Amazon global selling experience on stage with us here today for our panel titled Selling Globally Mythbusters. First, we have Ivan Ong, co-founder of KeaBabies, a baby and maternity lifestyle brand that sells in over 10 countries. They currently have the #1 baby pillow and the #2 child sling carrier on Amazon.com and are on track to hit nearly USD 50 million in revenue sales this year. Ivan has personally shared with me before that his favorite product is actually the diaper bag because you can be a cool and fashionable dad with KeaBabies. We also have Crystal Ren, founder of not one, but two brands on Amazon.com, Abound Lifestyle, a home decor brand that was launched during the pandemic and hit 7-figure sales just in their first year, and health and wellness and beauty brand, Phera, which just launched this year, but their products have already sold out multiple times during launch. So I'm certainly looking forward to hear from Crystal about her serial entrepreneurship advice. And last but not least, Mark from Aerospring Hydroponics will also be joining us. Aerospring Hydroponics was born out of the pandemic due to the founders' desire to grow vegetables in their home here in Singapore, despite all of our urban constraints. They wanted to be self-sufficient and also have healthier and more nutritious produce produced right in their home here in Singapore. So after crowdfunding, the brand launched on Amazon.com, and their sales has actually grown more than 350% year on year. And personally, Mark has convinced me that homegrown rocket and kale definitely tastes better. So let's welcome our panelists on stage. Please take your seats. Thank you so much for joining us here today. In this rather exciting panel, we have 7-figure sellers, 8-figure sellers. We have sellers selling products ranging from 20 USD all the way to 1,000 USD. So I think they have a lot of experience to share. We have a rather exciting format, right? So I'm sure you've realized these paddle pops here on stage. Since we are talking about Mythbusters, each panelist has a set of paddles, right? Red, green, and orange. Right? True, false, and depends, right? So they'll each respond to different statements about selling globally using their panels based on their experience, right? All right. Are you ready? All right. Okay. So the first few statements that I'm going to make actually start concerned with starting an e-commerce brand, right? So let me know whether the statement is true, false, or kind of like depends on the situation, right? Depending on your experience. So I think the first statement is, you can start an e-commerce brand with no e-commerce experience. What are our panelists' thoughts? Right, all right. So I'll start first with Crystal, right? You were an ex-management consultant. Like, could you share your thoughts?
Yeah, so I definitely think that you can start an e-commerce brand with no e-commerce experience. I'm a living proof of that. So I started my journey on Amazon about 3-4 years ago, and before that I had absolutely no experience in consumer goods, let alone e-commerce whatsoever. So I was actually a management consultant in the TMT space. So I learned everything from scratch, and I think that, you know, pretty much everybody can do it if they are willing to learn.
How about you, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely. I do think, however, that some digital marketing or e-commerce experience certainly helps. There are a lot of tools and platforms in the market today that you can use to tap into e-commerce knowledge and how to actually build an e-commerce brand. But I certainly think you can do it without actually having a previous experience.
Right, right. So certainly having some good sense of numbers and some digital marketing skills certainly helps, but it's not a prerequisite. What are your thoughts here, Ivan?
I think right now it's much easier to start an e-commerce brand than before, because now there's so much information on the internet. There's like logistic infrastructure all built out ready for you to use, and there's a lot of automation softwares that you can use to basically start your e-commerce brand. So definitely I don't think experience is required to start a brand.
Right, okay. So let's get ready for our second statement about starting an e-commerce brand. The second statement is, you can start an e-commerce brand with just 1 or 2 people. Interesting, interesting. Oh, we have true, and true. Okay, 3 truths here. Like, let's start with Ivan. Like, what are your thoughts here?
So basically, I know like friends who have built 7, 8 figures e-commerce business on Amazon with just 1 or 2 people. So now I think with so much AI improvements, technology, softwares, it's definitely like a lot of automation can be done. So 1 or 2 people definitely possible.
Yeah. How about you, Crystal?
Yeah, so I started off with just me and myself and I. So I, over time, grew a team, but I definitely think you can start off just by yourself. And in fact, I know some of the brands that worth hundreds of millions of dollars on Amazon, they probably only have 5 to 10 people. So you don't really need a lot of people to start an e-commerce business.
That's really heartening to hear. What are your kind of like personal experiences with this, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, our business was started by husband and wife, 2 co-founders who launched the e-commerce business on Amazon. You really do need to tap into the different platforms and different partners that are out there to do so, especially as you start to scale. But certainly it can be started with 1 or 2 people for sure.
Yeah, one more thing to add. In fact, when we started, I just started 6 years ago with just me and my wife. So just 2 of us, and then we slowly grew along the way. Yeah.
Right.
So definitely possible.
Yeah, so definitely, probably not necessary when you start, but probably when you want to scale to 8 figures, 9 figures, probably a consideration here, right? Right, okay. The next statement is rather interesting. The next statement is, the US is too crowded for new brands. What are your opinions here? True, false, depends? All right, okay, so we have, okay, false and 2 depends. All right, so let's start with Mark first.
I mean, this question, when we prepped for this panel, I think was the most charged, and we had most discussions around this. I kind of zeroed in on the word too crowded. I certainly don't think it's too crowded. It is a crowded marketplace. But with any marketplace or any market, you really have to find the niche. You've got to attack that niche and find something unique or unusual to sell, or a selling point about your product. There are certainly opportunities in the US market. You just have to find them. But it is a very crowded market, so I kind of agree with my co-panelists that it is not too crowded, but it's very crowded.
Right, yeah. What are your views here, Kristen?
Yeah, so I think it depends. I definitely think it is very crowded. Don't get me wrong, US market is the biggest consumer goods market in the world. So by the virtue of it, it will be crowded. And I think it really depends on who you are and what you're selling. If you're selling something like a commodity in a very saturated market, I think it might be too crowded for you if you don't have any strategic advantage of your product. And also, I think it might be too crowded if you just wanted to like make a quick buck and you don't really have the necessary commitment into the market. But for myself, US was always the first stop that I chose for my products because of the market potential that it brings.
Would you like to add on, Ivan?
So when we started, we specifically chose to start with the US, knowing that it's a crowded market. Number one, because we know that US is the largest e-commerce market in the world. So definitely has a lot of potential. No doubt it's crowded, but anywhere that got a lot of money to be made, then you'll be crowded, right? If there's no money to be made, then it won't be crowded. Trust me, yeah. So expanding to US first, if you can succeed in the US, then like expanding to other marketplace will be, much easier, yeah, in my opinion.
Right, yeah, so definitely I think the foundations of having a proper strategy, having a unique selling point for your brand, or like some of the other sellers have told me, right, don't be a Me Too brand, have a differentiating point, have a long-term brand building value. Those all matter, right, when you enter into a new country, right? Right, really interesting and diverse perspectives so far. The next statement, also very interesting, right? The next statement is, you need to visit the US to understand US consumers. What are our thoughts here? Okay, no, and no. Okay. I think definitely this myth has been busted. So let's hear your thoughts here. So I know some of you studied in the US, some of you know America very well. What are your thoughts here?
I'll start first. You definitely don't need to visit the U.S. In fact, I know some of the top sellers from Singapore. They've never been to the U.S. before, but they sell in the U.S. market. And anecdotally, the biggest seller country of Amazon.com is China. So they have about 29% of sellers from China, including Hong Kong. And those people, like, let alone visiting U.S., they don't even, English is not even their native language, right? So you don't necessarily need it to go to that place to understand its culture, user behavior. You know, there's a lot of data available already these days, you know, via internet. So I think, yeah, you don't need to do that.
Right. Plus, the language proficiency here in Singapore definitely helps. Like, what's your experience here, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly helps to visit the U.S. to try to understand the American consumer a little bit more. I am American, so I kind of have that insight already. But as Crystal mentioned, there's so much, you know, so many research platforms and so much information online that you can garner to really understand the U.S. consumer. When you start to look at keyword research, user flows, how people move through that decision-making journey, there's so much online that you can get from just things like keyword research, whether it be through the Amazon tools or tools like Google, that can actually get you a really good understanding of what consumers are thinking, what they're searching for, what they're interested in buying, and how to actually convert them to actual customers.
Yes, so definitely there's so much data available, not just provided by Amazon, which you'll hear in later sessions today, but also outside of Amazon that you can leverage to understand US consumers better. The next statement is really interesting too. Singapore consumers and US consumers are similar. What are your personal experiences here? All right, we have one depends, and one false. All right, let's start with false first. Like, Crystal, what's your experience?
Okay, I think I choose false because of the category that I'm selling. So, for example, for Abound Lifestyle, we sell in home decor products, and I definitely see a lot of differences because we are more of a fashion decor brand. So we needed to look into the color, the pattern, the user, the trends, what make people tick and what's their preferences. And I think for that kind of things, there's a huge difference in terms of American consumers and Singaporean consumers. So for example, some of our rugs that we sell, it's really kind of a statement rugs to like express yourself. So that really resonate well with the US consumers who are a lot more individualistic than Singaporean consumers. So I think it depends on the product they sell. Say if you do like napkin, like probably the difference is very minimal. But if you do something like, the category that I'm in, then yeah, you need to study it.
Yeah, really, really interesting, and definitely for sure, like consumer preferences, especially in terms of design, taste, color, or even use case scenarios might be different, right? So let's move on to some of the false statements that we hear here. Like Ivan, let's start with you.
So KeaBabies, basically we sell like baby and maternity products. So the culture in terms of Western parenting style and Eastern parenting style can be different. And so no doubt some of the products that we use, Singapore users and American parents use are similar. But we still need to understand more about the culture differences, the different kinds of products that they use before we decided we want to launch our product. And in whatever country that we sell in, yeah. So even Europe and US, it's also there's a slight difference in terms of how the parenting views baby products. So definitely need to do our research and understand the consumers first.
Right. So I understand like baby wearing is actually very big in the US, right? Versus like maybe here in Asia, that may not kind of be the preferred method. And you've also launched some products, or tried to launch some products before, like the nasal aspirator, right? Where maybe the different usage in Singapore and in the US may be slightly different. So definitely some nuances in terms of cultural understanding are definitely helpful when you do your product research. Right, so I'll turn to Mark here, right? And like, especially for produce, growing seasons are also different across the countries. What's your personal experience here?
Yeah, I mean, the reason I answered question mark or it depends is because some of the behaviors or habits are similar, some are different. So it's kind of a broad question. And you know, one thing that is similar is that everybody likes a deal, right? So when things go on sale, Singaporean consumers like a deal, so do American consumers. The one big difference that we've noticed in the US consumer, they're incredibly demanding. And it's not that Singaporean consumers aren't demanding, but I'll give you two examples. In the US, Amazon offers 30 days guaranteed return, no questions asked. A lot of US customers exercise that. So they might actually try the product for a short period of time and then return it and ask for a full refund. We don't see that so much out of Singapore consumers. The other thing is that the demands around sort of same-day shipping or overnight shipping, two-day shipping, the US consumers are really, really demanding. They want everything tomorrow. And we had a conversation about this when we prepped for this panel. And the US consumer has been very much conditioned to expect this kind of service. So if you're not able to get things to them very quickly, they will turn to another brand or another product, or they'll cancel the order, whatever the case may be. So very demanding consumer in the US, a little bit forgiving, more forgiving here in Singapore.
Yeah, thank you for that reminder, Mark. I think a lot of the panelists brought up points about product preferences, but there are also service expectation differences, right, between the different countries. The next statement is also really interesting, right? The next statement is, you can build trust with consumers purely digitally. You can build trust with consumers purely digitally online. Ooh, I didn't expect so many greens, but we have true, true, and true, right? So let's start with Ivan here.
Definitely true, because number one, we don't have a physical presence in the US. Number two is with now social media, you can like you can connect with your customers like through social media. So we are on like Instagram, Facebook. We have a community or Facebook group, on emails. So we are constantly like creating contents, curating like good parenting tips for our customers to constantly build that trust, that customers' trust, and also like letting them know that we are always here for them. So if they need any support in terms of the products, or is it being parenting, or is it being anything related to babies, they can always look for us, and we're always here for them. So that's how we slowly build the trust over the years.
Right, creating educational content and also building communities, like your Kia communities, right, of parents, to provide peer-to-peer support. That's a really interesting point. What are your thoughts here, Crystal?
Yeah, so I agree with Ivan. I think that you can build a relationship with your customers 100% only online via social media, PR presence, you know, like a lot of channels that we currently have. And you know, some of them are free, and some of them can go viral like overnight if you have good content like TikTok. But I think that depends on the relationship you want to build with your customers. You know, sometimes like offline presence, where you go there in person, shake hands with some customers, can also help you to build a deeper relationship with them. So, you know, like I said that, for example, you know, if you're Taylor Swift, like you don't just publish album, right? Like you also go to tours, like concerts. I mean, that's why now we have like a phenomena, you know, like of her. And I think that she built a lot of her relationship with her fans offline. So another reason I think that it's good for you to expand your presence later on once you have the capability to go offline and omni-channel necessarily, is that you can also expand your revenue stream. So for example, one of our competitors in US, they have you know, beauty products and beauty devices. And you recently start to open like beauty salons where like they can also serve their customers and adding on to new revenue streams from the service side.
Right, that's a really interesting perspective. And Mark, I'm definitely looking to hear from you too, because I know you have a showroom here in Singapore. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we do have a retail presence here in Singapore, but we have no presence in the US at all. And we've built our brand entirely through digital channels, primarily through Amazon first, and then kind of through our website a little bit later. There are a lot of key touch points that you need to really consider when trying to build that brand presence and even sell products on Amazon in the US. Your listings are obviously paramount. We do use the fact that we're manufactured in Singapore and talk about our strict quality control here in Singapore in our listings. So that I think helps a little bit for people to kind of get to know us and trust us. Your brand store is hugely important, and you need to have a consistency between that and your listings. And then driving reviews. Reviews are the heart and soul of anybody on Amazon. Getting reviews or getting ratings is not that easy, particularly for a product like ours. But it's paramount. If you don't have good reviews, you're not going to sell products. And then lastly, our website's really key for us. To have that consistency between our brand store on Amazon, our web presence and our website, and our listings all really kind of build trust with consumers there to have faith that they can actually purchase a product from us. The other thing I'll mention too is, we talk a lot about our warranties and honoring our warranties, as well as the return process. And through that, consumers have confidence that they can buy a product from us. The warranty will be honored, and they'll be able to return the product if they don't find it works for them.
Yeah, so your products retail over $1,000, so I'm really heartened to know that you can build trust with consumers purely online, even for high consideration products, right? So as we end off the panel, I would like to personally also hear your views, because I'm sure you talk to family, you talk to friends a lot, right? And they probably have a lot of misperceptions about what you do, right? The question, the statement that I have here is quite interesting, right? As an Amazon's global seller, I spend most of my time in a warehouse. True, false, depends. Right. Oh, 3 falses. Okay. Marcus decided to change his mind. False, and depends. All right, let's start with the 2 falses first. Let's start with you, Ivan.
So for us to sell internationally in the US, we utilize Fulfilled by Amazon to do all the inventory and shipping logistics for us. So I never ever been to a warehouse, except when I went to US. I just went for Amazon FBA warehousing tour for fun. That's about it. Yeah, I've never been to a warehouse before.
You can go for a free tour to our fulfillment centers if you wish. How about you, Crystal?
Yeah, so I echo Ivan. I've never been to a warehouse physically myself as well, because I use FBA and 3PL, which is the third-party logistical partner. So I've only seen like video footages of warehouses from what they sent to me. Yeah, and I actually, would like to go to a warehouse to just get my hands dirty to package the product, but I haven't got the chance.
Right. So it's pretty much like a desk job, mainly on the computer, I guess, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. How about you, Mark? Interesting.
Yeah, so it kind of depends. I mean, our business is a manufacturing business, and while we've been in business for over 8 years, I think the first 5 or 6 years, we spent a lot of time in the warehouse, manufacturing, assembling, packing, and actually packing containers. We also work with a 3PL partner in the US, in Los Angeles. So we just came back from LA on a work trip, and we spent a day in our warehouse there. But now that we've scaled the business, we're able to hire more staff, then we don't really spend much time in the warehouse at all. So it really depends on the nature of your business, as well as the stage of growth that your business is in.
Yeah, that's a really interesting perspective, right? So as we close off this panel, I would also like to personally hear from you some of the common Amazon global selling myths that people come to you with. I'm sure other sellers also approach you with a lot of different questions. Like, how about you, Ivan?
Maybe some of you may heard that like selling on Amazon is very easy, and it's like you have a lot of time. I just want to reiterate the point that it's still a business. And business fundamentals is still very, very equally important. No doubt it's easier than succeeding in a brick and mortar business. That's what I feel. But you still need to do your homework. You need to put in a lot of time. You need to put in a lot of investments. You need to put in a lot of efforts. Sleepless nights sometimes, dealing with like Amazon issues. But the important thing is to get started. Take baby steps. Plan your moves carefully. Analyze, but make sure you don't analyze until you become paralyzed. So make sure just to start slow, take baby steps, and then like as you grow along, you learn how to scale and grow their business.
Right, right. So definitely 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration here, right? How about you, Crystal?
Yeah, so I guess along the line of what Ivan's saying, a lot of people thought it was easy if they never done Amazon before. Well, it's not. And also, I think another misconcept people have is that, oh, Amazon is for like side hustlers, people who, college students or like drop shippers. That is not the case anymore in 2023. It might have been the case, 10 years ago, but now it's become so hard. And then, you really need to have that time and commitment and resources and be serious about the business to be successful. But, the good news is that once you do, the reward that you can reap from this could also be tremendous, right? So I think that once you take it seriously, you will also have a better chance of success.
Right, that's a great tip in terms of like long-term visioning here. How about you, Mark?
Yeah, I'll keep this short because I think we're just about to overrun. But I echo what my co-panelists say. It's not easy. Now, don't let that scare you off because the rewards are there and there is a learning curve. But there are a lot of moving parts to running activity on Amazon. As a seller, we sell on both FBA and FBM. So that's two moving parts. You have to manage your voice of the customer. You have to manage returns. Getting stock into FBA can sometimes be a bit of a challenge. Building your brand presence, managing reviews, responding to customers from a customer service perspective. And I haven't even mentioned doing your advertising, your PPC ads, your SEO, optimizing your listings. So there are a tremendous amount of moving parts to running on Amazon, but it's tremendously rewarding, and access to that market through Amazon is just fantastic and unparalleled. So it's worth it.
Yeah. So I think to quote Crystal from your video earlier, you mentioned that having a business is like raising a baby, right? You do have to put a lot of care and consideration, concern, and you really hope the baby kind of runs on its own. But it's you do have to definitely put a lot of effort into the work, into the brand, but it will pay off, right? So let's put our hands together to thank our panelists so much for their time today. We do have a lot of tools to help you ease the process later, so do stay on for the later sessions.